because room full of Latinos. Right? Please find your seat. If you don't have a seat, there's no chairs outside. Let's get the party going because room full of Latinos. Right? Please find Teyolia. In Nahuatl, Teyolia refers to the animating force tied to your heart. It is the part of you that holds how you feel, even as your voice cracks. That's what this room represents to me, because when I look around, I don't see a room full of people that haven't found their voices. Get it? I see a room full of people that need to find it together and amplify it. Because when we do, more freely and more fully, we not only grow individually, but we empower our families, our teams, and our wider communities. And that is Brave Voices. That's why we're here. So welcome. I am Mercedes Sullivan. I am the proudest United Latinas board member, and I am beyond privileged to be with you here today opening this event. Before we get started, I got to thank a few people and sponsors that made this possible. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read my naughty notes because I want to make sure we get to everybody. First and foremost, we're honored to have Liz Monterrey, a large member of the Charlotte Mecklenburg Board of Education, the first elected Latina in Charlotte. Thank you. As someone with children in the school district here, I so appreciate you. If you have some tips for teenagers, help me out here. We also want to recognize Susan Rodriguez McDowell, Mecklenburg County Commissioner for District 6. She couldn't be here today, but last minute, but we really want to recognize and thank her for her support as well. Now, none of this is possible without our sponsors. So first and foremost, thank you to our lead sponsor, Bank of America. We're especially grateful to Grace Landon Nystrom, Tegan Howell, Jennifer Caldwell. Where are you at? Woo! Also, Bank of America, thank you for employing my husband in this very building and for providing wonderful benefits. This is the stressful part of it. He's like, don't mess it up, I need a job. We also want to recognize our bronze sponsor, Latina Chief and LCH Search, founded by Lisette Ibarra. If you do talk to her, you can guilt trip her for not being here. But for those of you that do not know, Lisette Ibarra changed my life. She actually placed me in my current job with my first ever Latino boss. And it's literally changed my life. And this organization for me is not a job or a position that I hold, it's purpose. It's why I live, to make sure that more of us get to be in that privileged position. So for her organization with over 30 years of combined experience in executive search, they place people in the right role, right place, in the right company. So thank you, Lisette. I also want to recognize the rest of the speakers. Some of you came from faraway places. So thank you for being here with us today and sharing your knowledge. I cannot wait to hear from you and your brave voices. Very special thank you to Magda. Where's Magda Isola? Let's go! Obviously, if you didn't know, Magda is our Charlotte chapter president and just a force. Also to my fellow board members, thank you for dedicating your time and attention to this wonderful organization, and especially Greece. I know she couldn't be here today, but she kind of pushed us to be more present in the Charlotte area, so thank you. And finally, but definitely not least, all of you. Without your presence here, well, this just doesn't happen. So I really do hope we take this opportunity to work together and elevate our brave voices together, really. This is our time, and it's up to us. And just look around, feel the energy. I mean, what other room do you walk around and feel like the feels like here? So thank you, all of you. I am so excited to be here with you and learn with and alongside you. And with that, I'm passing it over to Sandra. A video, then Sandra. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Mercedes, for your warm introduction. I'm so excited to have all of us here in this space today. Hopefully I can get through this. And thank you again. I want to reiterate, all of you that flown in and all of you that driven in, we appreciate you for spending the time with us today. So we are really excited about today's program. We're going to talk about a lot of heart, a lot of data, a lot of real statistics, and being community and being love. So I do want to just kind of mention something. There's a lot going on in our world right now, and it's really scary. It's heavy, and it's very overwhelming for many of us. It's hard to make sense of sometimes, and yet we don't get to pause life, right? We're leading our careers, we're serving our clients, and we're caring for our families. So I want to appreciate and hold space for everyone today and make that part of this agenda. So thank you for coming to Brave Voices. I believe our brave voices are not just meant to be heard. They're meant to change what happens next. And that's why I've been sitting with this one question. What changes because of us? There's a moment that many of us have experienced where we felt like we had something to say, but questioned if we should say it. Not because we didn't know enough, not because we weren't capable, but because somewhere along the way, we were taught to measure our voice, to watch it, to filter it, to make sure it was acceptable. But I've come to understand something. Our voices were never the problem. The environments we were navigating just weren't always ready for them. We can be loud, but that's just because we are energetic, passionate, driven, problem solvers who want to contribute to a better world. We love life, family, and community, and we were always meant to be here. There is a narrative that brilliance looks a certain way, that intellect sounds a certain way, that leadership tells and comes from a certain place. But history tells a different story. It tells us about women like Dr. Antonia Novello, who rose to become the first female and first Latina U.S. Surgeon General, not by shrinking her voice, but by standing firmly in it. It reminds us of Sonia Sotomayor, who now sits on the highest court of the land, interpreting law and bringing her lived experience into every decision. And then there are others, like Ellen Ochoa, who didn't just look up at the stars, she went there. Engineer, scientist, leader, proof that our curiosity really has no ceiling. Like Dr. Helen Rodriguez Trias, who understood that intellect is not just what you know, it's what you fight for. She used her knowledge to challenge systems and to advocate for those who were overlooked. And Sylvia Mendez, who as a young girl became part of a case that helped dismantle school segregation before most people even knew her name. And there are so many others that we do not know that are making an impact, many right here in this very room. These women didn't wait to be invited into spaces. They didn't wait to be validated. They didn't ask, am I enough to be here? They decided they were. And here's the truth. Their intelligence was never separate from who they were. Their culture, their language, their stories, that wasn't something to overcome. That was the source. And now we sit in rooms they helped make possible, not by accident, not by luck, but by legacy. And for me, that understanding didn't start in rooms like this. It started with my mother. My mother was a woman of love. She worked hard, 6, sometimes 7 days a week for my entire life until she was diagnosed, all to support her 5 kids as a single mom. She was the strongest woman I've known. She was kindness and humility. She was quiet strength and laughter. She didn't stand on stages, but she was an amazing leader. And she carried a presence that shaped how I see the world. She instilled in me something many people don't receive enough of. She believed in me, and she trusted me, even when my choices didn't follow a traditional path, even when I challenged systems, and when I chose to walk away from spaces, even some religious spaces when I was 6 years old. I chose to walk away from spaces that didn't align with who I was becoming. She didn't question my voice. She trusted it. And that kind of belief does something powerful to you. It teaches you to listen inward, to trust your alignment, to choose truth over approval. And not everyone had that, but I believe this. Somewhere along your journey, something planted that seed in you. A voice, a moment, a realization that said, there's more for me. And that more, that's your purpose calling you. And here's where everything shifts. Because recognizing your power and understanding your truth and understanding your purpose is not enough. You have to move, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's uncertain, even when you don't feel ready. Because action is what builds belief, not the other way around. So in moments of doubt, I come back to something simple. What is one aligned step I can take right now? Just one. Because movement creates clarity, and clarity builds confidence. And let me take this one step further. Because when we talk about action, we're not just talking about any movement. We're talking about intentional action. The kind of action that comes from knowing who you are, what you stand for, and what you refuse to compromise. Because every time we choose to speak, you shape something. And every time you choose to stay silent, you shape something. Every time you walk into a room and decide whether you will show up fully or shrink, you are influencing what that room becomes. Confidence is not built in big moments alone. It's built in the micro decisions we make every day. What we tolerate, what we challenge, what we elevate, and what we ignore. And if we're honest, many of us have been in rooms where we felt the pull to say something, to challenge something, to raise the standard, and we didn't. Not because we didn't care, but because we calculated the risk. Is this the right moment? Will I be misunderstood? Will this cost me something? And those are very real questions. But here's the truth. Every time we choose comfort over alignment, we delay the very change we say we want. And I'm not saying we need to be loud all the time, but I am saying we need to be honest. We need to be intentional. We need to be aware of the impact we carry, whether we use it or not. Because when I think about my mother, she didn't have titles, she didn't have stages, but she made people better through the way she made people feel seen, through her wisdom, through how she showed up, her smile, her work ethic, her kindness, through her bravery. And that reminds me, impact doesn't always look like recognition, but it always leaves a mark. So when we talk about legacy, we're not just talking about the big things we accomplish. We're talking about who did you empower? What did you challenge? Who did you create space for? Because whether you realize it or not, you are already shaping rooms. You are already influencing people. You are already leaving an imprint. The only question is, are you doing it by default or by design? So the question isn't, do we belong here? We've already answered that. The real question is, now that we're here, what changes because of us? Thank you, and welcome to Brave Voices.
I'm going to do the mic instead. How's everybody doing? Woo! Have you ever had a dream so big, so far-fetched, so amazing that it scared you? This is it today. This is it today. Sandra and I met online. I said that I wasn't going to cry, and still it happened. Sorry. Sandra and I met online, like 6, 7 years ago, maybe? The power of digital, right? We met on LinkedIn because we've been following each other now for quite some time, and I was like, this woman, she's got something. I want to be like her when I grow up. And then suddenly something happened. She'd been following me as well. And then we clicked each other on LinkedIn. I can't remember if it was I texted you, you texted me, but it was like, let's chat. Fast forward, we started making conferences online because COVID hit. And, we needed to do something. And so we started doing conferences online. They started to be amazing. We started to fill in virtual rooms just like this one with a lot of amazing people and amazing speakers because we wanted to share stories. I wanted to share stories. She wanted to share stories. And we just thought it would be the perfect platform to be able to share stories broadly. But I had my thing. She had her thing. And this was just like this little side thing. Every 6 months, we would text each other again and say, what are you doing? Why don't we put another conference together and another conference together and another conference together? And we always joke because once we hit those conferences, the week before, we're doing like, why are we doing this to ourselves? And then we get to the conference. It's amazing. It's spectacular. We meet amazing people like all of you. Everybody is like thrilled. And then we're like, yes, we need the next one. And then we created a community without knowing it. I mean, this has always been a part of building a community, but we didn't intentionally think about it that way. It just happened. And so 4 years ago, we decided, and it was in May, I remember perfectly because we started unofficially in June of that year, to say, I think we have a thing here. I think people want to get together. I think people need to share their stories. They want to, they find a community of support here that they can't find anywhere else. And everybody in this room and every one of our 8,000 members is spectacular. But for some reason, we don't think that of ourselves. We think everybody else is amazing, but we are just one more, right? We go to our work, we do our thing, we create impact every day, and that's it. We celebrate others, but we don't let everybody else the amazing impact that we are creating every day. This world that we live in today is a result of all of your work, big or small. Each one of you touches lives in ways that you wouldn't even imagine. Sometimes you're conscious of it, sometimes you might not be. So we decided to start this community and make it a formal organization where we believe firmly that everybody has a story, everybody has a voice, and everybody should be known because we are the world's best kept secret and that needs to stop. People need to know how amazing each person in this room is. And not only in the spaces that you influence, but beyond those spaces. Because the current narrative in the world is a narrative of disruption, is a narrative of fear, is a narrative of anxiety, is a narrative of the world is going to come to an end and it's going to blow up at any point in time, right? But actually, I don't think that's true. It doesn't mean that it can't happen. But I see more good happening every day in so many spaces than the other narrative that's been held out there. We just don't say it. We just focus on our work and continue every day and go to our families and friends and hope for the best the next day, and we give it our all. Those are the narratives I firmly believe, those positive, those encouraging, those inspiring, those the buck doesn't stop here narratives, I believe are the ones that should be flooding the media, should be flooding the digital space, should be flooding all the way to the moon and beyond. Right? We should celebrate those. But instead, we're always checking what's going to happen today. Like, is the world going to blow up today or not? Let me check. If we silence those narratives and we focus on our narratives, which I believe truly are the future, we can really make a change. And it doesn't require a lot. It requires brave voices like each and every one of you have here today. Before my fellow board members, speaker, Sandra, talk about courage and talk about choice. We all have a choice. Every single day, moment, we have a choice on how we're going to use our voice and how are we going to amplify other people's voices. It's our choice in what we share, in how we spotlight each other. They're micro moments, but they're micro moments that can make a significant difference in somebody's life. That, to me, is what Brave Voices is all about. It's about standing in the courage of choosing to shift the narrative to one of success, to one of encouragement, to one of inspiration. I think we owe it to our parents, to our grandparents, and to the hundreds of ancestors that are coming, that came before us, that through their hard work, they got us, all of us, to be here today. I think we owe it to them. And most importantly, we owe it also to the future generations, because this is the world that we're going to leave to them, right? I think about it every day. And my daughter somewhere, I think it's my responsibility to leave a better world than what I found. I think it is. And it's in our choice every day what we're going to do to shift it and change it. Because we can't wait for somebody else to do it for us. It's not going to happen. We need to take control of that. We need to take control of the narrative. We need to take control and activate it and do it in those micro moments and in those opportunities which present every day. Yes, we need to go to work. We need to deliver our goals. We need to do our results. Yes, because we need to pay the bills. But that doesn't mean that in that process, we can't choose how we use our voice and how we elevate others' voices, especially those that are constantly being silenced for whatever the reason. I believe that that is our choice every single day. And that is what today is all about. To be able to share those stories, to be able to share those insights, to be able to share the good, the bad, and the ugly so that we can learn from it, get inspired, and say, sí se puede, right? Like our Dolores Huerta continues to say, que sí se puede. Because the world is a better place than it was 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. No matter what the narrative and the media says, it is a better world today, and it'll continue to be a better world because of each one of us and the communities that we participate in. That is my invitation to all of you, to choose how you're going to continue to use your voice from now on, and how you're going to continue to echo other people's voices. Thank you so much for showing up. I started with saying this is what a dream looks like. We would have never in 1,000 years thought that we would, have an in-person conference with 200 people here, flying in, many of them from different spaces and places, just to be here in community. And it's happening today. To have sister organizations and brother organizations like ACE, like LDC, and like many others that are here, A La Latina, Hispanic Star, and all of our partners that you know are with us all together, because we don't see competition. There is no competition. We need to work together with each other to make things happen. So thank you so much from the bottom of our heart. Sandra and I text each other every day. Well, recently we've been focusing on the conference, but in general we text each other every day saying, how are we going to change the world today? And that's how we make the decisions. So it's a really, really good action to do. I invite you to text somebody else and say, how are you and I going to change the world today? Because I believe that it's in those micro moments that we're going to make a significant difference. So once more, thank you for being here. Thank you for being in Brave Voices and sharing this movement. And this movement is just going to grow significantly bigger from here. Truly appreciate all of your support. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so let's get going. Let's get this party started. I'm missing one slide. I'll get it fixed. But we have our next panel, and I want to invite my panelists through. Coming here. Now I need to read them from my phone. I apologize. You check things twice and still. So our next panel is the power of getting in the rooms. So I want to invite Jerry Fernandez, Ozzy Gramada, Patricia Mota, and Teresa Palacio Smith to come with me, because if you don't know them, check them out in our digital agenda, because I'm going to be sitting with, oof. No, I'm going to be here. Okay. So I normally don't like to be behind these because I'm very short, but good thing that this is clear. So we're good. So first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you for saying yes when we texted you and said, can you please come to Brave Voices? And they immediately said yes. And so we truly, truly thank you once more, because you all represent very important organizations. The work that you all do is simply spectacular, and I just couldn't be more grateful for that. So I know all of you, but I know our audience might not know who you are. So I want to ask you briefly, looking back at your journey, what was one power move, a decision, a shift, a moment in time that made the biggest difference in getting you to the leadership positions that you have today? And we can start with Mr. Jerry Fernandez and then move along while I go and fix the slide.
Well, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm pleased to be here. I'm trying to be retired, not doing a really good job of it. But for 26 years, I ran the Multicultural Food Service and Hospitality Alliance, and we have promoted opportunities for people of color in the restaurant hospitality space. As you know, there's a serious attack on the work that we know is necessary. The restaurant hospitality industry is powered by Latinos. Mm-hmm. And although I claim Cape Verdean roots, so I have African Portuguese roots, I understand very well the Latino population because I spend time listening and learning and being coached by many. Was it not for a Latina and an African-American woman, I never would have had this opportunity to help my industry move forward. One move for me is I watched what was going on in the room, and I learned about leadership from the middle. You do not have to be the person with the big title to show leadership. And I saw General Mills trying to recruit more people of color in the R&D facility, and they were talking silliness in my view. And I said, hey, I think you guys are doing it wrong. I have an idea. And they said, well, if you got such a great idea, go do it. How many of you know if you raise your hand, you're going to get you're going to get assigned to some duty. Well, I did, and the net is me and a few other folks got together and really helped the company do something that made a huge difference in recruiting blacks and browns to the R&D facility. So action doesn't work unless you don't do anything. And you heard this morning, Sandra said it already. You have to move. In my case, move away from Rhode Island to Minnesota. But you have to move away to make things happen.
That's great. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sandra and Ileana, for your beautiful opening this morning and the kind reminder. I think that it's never enough to remind ourselves in terms of the power of using our voices and being courageous, especially in this time and place. I have the honor of serving as president and CEO of ASE, the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement. Thank you. A national organization headquartered in Chicago, whose mission since 1982 has been around advancing our community, starting as young as high school to mid-career professionals. And I am a proud Latina, Mexican-American, daughter of immigrants, and I've been sharing a lot more lately, also the daughter of a migrant farm worker. And I think that a lot of the reason that my why as to why I do the work that I do is exactly what Ileana shared, is to try to justify the sacrifice that my parents made so that my siblings and I have better, and for the next generation of my nieces, nephews, the next generation that we have. The power move was the power of saying yes. And it was 10 years ago. I've been at ASE 15 years, but it was 10 years ago when there was a lot of changes going on, and I was asked by the board to step in as interim president and CEO for the organization. And that came with a lot of caveats. I was at the time I was helping bring money in, but I wasn't privy to the P&L or the profit loss statements, and didn't realize the dire straits and the financial situation that we were in. And so and some of the caveats was like, yeah, interim CEO role, we've got to let these people go, and by the way, you got to take a pay cut. I believed enough in the mission, in my why, the support system that I had, that after I took a big gulp and processed that, decided to say yes, that then move forward to me formally getting in the role and bringing the organization to a couple $100,000 to a multi-million-dollar organization. Fast forward, right? But that goes back to the point of feeling the fear and doing it anyway, and relying more and trusting yourself, and learning how to balance that fear and faith. And I think that has helped me to balance that better, especially in the times that we're in now, to get quicker to faith. It's normal to have fear, but it's how quickly are we going to get ourselves back to the action piece, the decision making, and so that experience in and of itself helped me that along the way. Thank you.
So as the Gromada Mesa, I have the honor of leading an organization called Latino Corporate Directors Association, which is the only organization that's committed to advancing the Latino impact in the corporate boardroom space and the C-suite. We're approximately 700 members, where over 60% of them serve on corporate boards, on publicly traded and large private, and the rest are C-suite aspiring to be in the boardroom. So I am very honored to be in rooms every single day of people that are making moves. And LCDA was grounded to really make their space a little less lonely. At the top, it does get very lonely. So for us, it's about making their world a bit smaller, but also more meaningful. I've been there for 6 years, and similar to Patricia, baptism by fire, asked to become the interim CEO 3 years ago. And I said yes. And it's been a wild, wild ride. And I'm also a graduate of the ASE program. That's actually how we know each other. So my career has been not a straight line. It's just been a bunch of yeses and a lot of leaning into risk and fear. I'm a librarian by trade that went into executive search just because I liked the person speaking at a panel and I thought I want to work for that person. And then I found my way through the world of search and talent and really kind of understanding how it works, how it flows. And then I really focused on that for years, but then I also got married and decided to leave corporate America for a little bit and went and opened a flower design studio and also became the founder of Mac and Cheese Festival Chicago. Yeah, you can Google it. And then I went through an identity crisis after 5 years of doing that, saying, who's going to pick up a florist, librarian, Mac and Cheese Fest producer? So just lean into my network and really those are the power moves. The power moves is just making, leaning into the people that are part of your network and really nurturing those relationships and, being and really comfortable with fear and knowing that something like that can really create something great. And that's what led me to LCDA 6 years ago as their director of membership, and one thing after the next became the president and CEO. And once again, very honored to be here with you all. Thank you for the invitation and look forward to more conversation. Gracias.
Thank you.
I love everything that I'm hearing. And first of all, I'm so excited. I'm here. My God, this is amazing. I love Charlotte. I'm from Atlanta. And I see Jessica, and I see a lot of faces that are so familiar. And it's just an honor to be involved. And that dream that you had is just, to see it come to fruition is absolutely phenomenal. I had several things that happened. Unlike these amazing individuals here who had corporate opportunities and all that, I started out as a real estate agent. So I was in a different role, but I knew that I wanted to be more than that. And I love the corporate world. I saw it, and I thought, I really want to be involved in that. And like many of us that are in this room, I can see it. I'm the oldest, right, of 4 girls. And being the oldest sometimes automatically makes you a leader, right? Because you got to boss everyone around, tell them what to do, your parents are working, and so you're the one that's in charge, right? And so I realized really quickly that even though I loved and had a passion for real estate, I really loved and wanted to be more in the corporate world. So I got a job in our company with a real estate company, a local real estate company, which is a franchise. And I was in business development and sales, okay, which I love sales, business development. But again, I really wanted to be in that corporate world. And I realized that in my company, my boss, who I absolutely loved, who was a woman, and sometimes y'all know it's hard to kind of go around or elevate your person that you're reporting to, right? Would you all agree that? It's hard, because number one, you respect them, but you also realize there's no really room for growth. But I really needed to get the experience also that I wanted in order to be a leader, to be recognized that way, because I wasn't getting there. And my power move was getting involved with organizations as a volunteer, because I knew I wanted to develop those leadership skills. And let me tell you, getting in with United Latinas, working, right, Magda, working on board, that's where you get that experience. Saying yes, oh yeah, you need leadership person, I'll be the one, I'll do that. You start at that level. And that actually helped me. And the other power move was embracing Teresa Palacios. I used to be Teresa Smith. I'm Teresa Smith. Mijita, yo soy Teresa Palacios Smith, right? Teresa Palacios. Soy Latina, right? I'm a gringa Latina. So embracing that was another power move, because even though I'd worked in organizations like American Gringa, I'm like, okay. I also realized that embracing that would be amazing. So I joined the Georgia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, became chair, and then the president of my company, who never really took notice of me before, said to me, oh, by the way, there's an organization that's in Denver that's going to have a conference that I think you need to go to. And I said, well, I don't have time. I'm doing too much. That organization was NAREP, National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. Jessica and Paula are in the back. They're with, I know our Charlotte chapter is here, right? And I went to an event that was a trajectory, life-changing event. Came back to Atlanta, opened the NARB Atlanta chapter. From there, I was noticed and was able to come to the national board, became national president. I know we've got Norita Aguirre, our past national president, with us as well. And from there, I met Gino Bafori, who's the CEO of all of Home Services. All of Home Services. So here I'm on the local level. He now elevates me to this role that I have now today. So all these steps were the power moves that made that happen. Just doing that volunteer and saying yes.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I love hearing people's stories. One time somebody shared with me, I read people's bios. Like, that's what I do in my spare time. I read people's bios because that's where you get the inspiration of, oh, this were your power move. That's what you did. That's how you got there. When you said no, that's what happened, and you stood up. So thank you so much for being so vulnerable and sharing, because that could inspire a lot of people in the room, like, oh, I hadn't thought about that, but that sounds like a good idea. So thank you for sharing your power moves. Patricia, leadership roles are being redefined in real time. AI is changing how work gets done. Organizations are becoming leaner. Expectations are rising every day. What does it actually mean to be ready for leadership today? And what are people not preparing for that they actually should be thinking about?
Lofty question. My perspective, I'm sure, I'm still figuring it out. I always an ongoing a believer, an avid learner, and I think evolving. I just this past weekend, actually, one of the master classes I took was around AI, and I think one of the ahas that I had was that you hear a lot about AI. You know, there's two ends, right? The taking the jobs or what are going to be the new jobs, right, of the future. And there was some content talking about language learning models, right, within organizations that you would implement an LLM or the language learning model within the organization, and then it helps do the work, more increased productivity. And so one part of the conversation before I listened to this was saying that this is going to remove those entry-level jobs because only experienced folks can interpret what AI is spitting out, right? Because they have the experience. But in this instance was saying that once the LLM is built effectively, the people that benefit the most were the early career versus the most experienced. Why? Because it was the most experienced that input the data. So it was taking what they already knew and helping the early career spit it out faster because it had already been inputted in the LLM. Now that is game changer, and I don't think that we're talking about that enough right now. Huge. The second thing I will say, in addition to make sure that the AI and really understanding the landscape that it is, because there's going to be tons of perspectives and tools and productivity, is on the ability to get ourselves, we're experiencing now, we've had our ebbs and flows, but getting ourselves comfortable with change faster. Some of us, perhaps, it's a little bit easier, those not. But I have something that we've also been doing a lot with our leadership programs is embedding the concept of neuroplasticity, right? We all have the ability to change our behaviors, how we react, how quickly, how not, because the brain is magical like that. And I think that we're not having enough conversations around that and really practicing it on ourselves. And so I encourage, like, for you to read up on it, to really, if there's some behaviors or habits that you're looking to change, but especially I say that from the angle of getting ourselves comfortable with change. The other part of reports that we'll be doing a soft launch at our National Leadership Summit in Chicago next week, one of them is from Dr. Marlene Gonzalez, who did her PhD in neuroscience and has been one of our main coaches from our programs for the last 15 years, that is about the middle in terms of why folks are not getting to that next level. And from the nearly 1,000 respondents from both alumni and folks within that level, from our various corporate partners, that there were surveys, focus groups, is because when we're with that executive, we're overthinking and we're not saying or showcasing our credibility, our skill sets, and then we lose the moment. And how do we get ourselves quicker and more comfortable, brave, right? Leveraging that courage so that we're getting there. And then the third thing I will say, and there's a lot more to this list as I was thinking about it, is, which is number one actually, is the people aspect. And I think because of a lot of the uncertainty, it's inevitable that, this is trickling into our workplaces. And so how do we ensure ourselves and the people that we're leading that are provided with mental health, with resources, so that we are taking care of ourselves, because you need that in order to be effective as a leader. I was joking, Ileana, I think when you were talking about the text messages earlier with you and Sandra, like, what are we going to do to change the world? And I laughed. I looked over to Ozzy. I was like, I'm going to go take care of myself, go get a facial or something like that. Because I think as leaders, we lose sight of that. And I think sometimes you need to take a step back so that you can go faster, right? And so not losing sight of that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ozzy, you work with a lot of board people that want to be in a board of director or that are already there. But board roles don't happen overnight. It's not something that you apply for and suddenly get. They require intentional positioning, and given the board expectations are evolving today, what does board readiness actually look like, and how should leaders start preparing if they want to be considered now and in the future, in the years to come?
Great question. And, LCDA has been designed to work with leaders to have them better understand what conversations are happening in the boardroom, how to show up in the boardroom. But a main part of our focus is how do you get to the boardroom. We developed a Board Ready Institute in 2017 focused on really having a true and transparent conversation of what is expected of individuals that are interested in boardrooms. It's a very interesting place to be in. When you start your career, you have to put your resume together, your bio together, and start networking and applying for jobs. That's kind of the same when it comes to board service. Not that you're applying for a job, but you have to prepare yourself by making sure that you understand your value proposition, that you have your board bio ready, your board resume ready. Being in this space for many, many years, it's really interesting and humbling because our members are entering in a space that they're unsure of or know nothing about, right? They ask, how do I do it? How do I make it happen? Who do I talk to? And we're going to bring it back to the basics, So our Board Ready program, why it's so good is because we give them a taste of what governance is at the highest levels, right? Many of our members serve on not-for-profit boards, which is a super important thing as you prepare to be board ready, is being in non-for-profit boards really gives you an understanding of, the rules of governance, right? We always say the bigger the budget, the better the board, because in those spaces you do tend to connect with people who might lead you to your next opportunity. So we try to take those fundamentals of being a not-for-profit board and bring them into real life. So when we say someone completes our Board Ready program and say they're board ready, is that we have that conversation of governance 101, the duty of law, the duty of care, the fiduciary responsibilities. We have a real conversation of what is happening in boardrooms today. We also have a conversation of what is your true proposition, your brand. Many people discount what truly they are as an executive, and they don't take that narrative and flip it into what a board director potentially should be, right? So we practice with them. We literally practice with very senior leaders and say, no, do it again, do it again. And then the other element is we have recruiters that come in and talk about really what does a journey look like, what are the do's and the don'ts. We have a mock board meeting. So when we say board ready is that you have to take all your real world experience and now start thinking about yourself in that boardroom seat. You're not an executor, You're not an operator. You're an advisor. You're strategic in the way that you go into that boardroom. So most of the things about being board ready is just seeing yourself at the top and flipping the way you speak of yourself. Now, the other piece of the board ready, as I mentioned, is not-for-profit boards, right? How do you know that you're board ready? I think the hardest part in this space is that you have to ensure that you have a marketable career. That is the hardest part. Marketable career is that you have built a professional background that is valuable to boards, right? And my perspective is coming from a for-profit board perspective, right? So we have very real conversations with people who are interested in being part of LCDA because we're an invite-only membership association to say, you're not ready yet, and this is what you need to do to get there. So that is part of kind of us ensuring that we have a real conversation with them and that we have a realistic expectation of what their viability is into corporate board. So everyone in this room here, as you think about this journey, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. There's a decorum about being a board of director. One of the rules that we have at our organization is you do not ask for board seats. You do not ask for board seats. You get into the door, into the rooms we create, you check the ego, and you should check the title at the door. Because at the end of the day, you're here to build relationships. It's not about who you know, it's who knows you, right? So for us, it's really, as you think about your journey, I'll give you a homework assignment. So look at corporations where you know a friend that's on a for-profit board, and kind of do reverse engineering how they got there, right? And try to figure out if there's a way that there's a gap that you're missing, or something that you feel that would make you more valuable. So start building that roadmap for yourself, because there is a certain profile that hits boards today. And not everyone's going to get on a board. That's a reality, right? So the other homework assignment is that every public company has a proxy. I'm going to get a little nerdy here, but has a proxy. You can go see it. That proxy shows exactly why every single board member is on that board, in that boardroom. The skills they bring, the functional expertise, all that. It's all broken down. So if you reverse engineer it, then you'll have a better understanding of what, once again, could be your roadmap to that boardroom. So that's a homework assignment for you all.
Thank you. Amazing tips. I hope you're all writing them down. We're starting to get to the end of this, but we still have a lot of great nuggets. Teresa, many of us have been told that if you do great work, we're going to get recognized and we're going to get those roles, right? But the reality, that's not how it works. Maybe at the beginning in our early career, but as we grow in our career, it's more. So what does it really take to be seen, to build influence, to advocate for ourselves, especially in an environment where there are unspoken expectations, added scrutiny, and pressure around how we show up?
First of all, that great question, and I love Ozzy. That's amazing, Patricia. Thank you for your AI knowledge as well. How much time do we have? How much?
We're getting
Okay.
close.
Okay.
Yeah.
So quickly, I'm going to tell you a couple things. Number one, what it takes is actually understanding that, you know, as our culture, and I'm saying that in many cultures, right? Calladita te ves más bonita. ¿Verdad? Remember that? Parents would always say that. So that means, you know, with your mouth shut, you look more prettier, right? So don't talk. Don't speak out of term. Work. Do your job. Be a good worker. That's what's going to make a difference. But that's not true, because you really have to speak up, and you really have to say yes to the roles and the opportunities, and you have to volunteer. That's what's going to get you there, and you have to be noticed. And then when you get the opportunity or the honor of being able to serve in a role that's higher than you thought you would ever be, a board seat in a nonprofit organization, where you can start, a lot of opportunities there, you speak up. You don't stay quiet when they ask questions or they need, you know, feedback. You add value, okay? Even though can I tell you something? Because you're scared. So you add value, and that gives you the confidence to continue to grow and to go back and to actually get the opportunity to help the organization and build yourself. And then the last thing you have to do is that you have to open doors for yourself like you do for other people. Sometimes we're hard on ourselves, right? We think, you said it, at the very beginning. Sandra said it, right? Sometimes we don't advocate for our own selves. You do have to do that. You have to say, wait a minute. You know, like Ozzy said, let me write everything down that I've done. Because sometimes you realize, man, I'm impressive, right? But you don't think it when you're just yourself because you're taught not to do that. So those are the things I think that have helped me, and I think will help anyone in getting into the role, into the position, the opportunity that you want to in your career.
I love that, Teresa. Thank you so much for your gems. Jerry, my friend, you've built and operated within powerful ecosystems that shape leadership pipelines. From your perspective, what role does sponsorship and relationships actually play in getting into senior leadership? And how can people build those intentionally, not accidentally?
Relationships are everything. I don't have an MBA. I didn't go to a super branded college at Cornell, like my sister, etc. But I came from the middle and went to the top, and went from washing dishes in the R&D facility to corporate jet with the CEO in 2 years. If I can do it, you can do it too. Yeah. A couple things, and Teresa, you stole some of my thunder. You're absolutely right. There are a couple of things you have to do. Be excellent at what you do right now, because if you are not excellent, you will not move forward. You have to be one of the best and the brightest. I don't care what it is you do. Be great at that. Second, strategic volunteering. And I wanted to get to meet the first black president of General Mills, so I volunteered in a community-based organization where he served on the board. Mm-hmm. Before long, he got a chance to see me, and guess what? He became not a mentor, a sponsor. Sponsors are the people in the room when you ain't. They're in the room saying, and Dr. Robert Rodriguez says, who's wearing your T-shirt? Okay? Who's talking about you when you're not in the room? That's when they make decisions about who gets promoted, et cetera, et cetera. Companies have to know that in the same way you wrap yourself around your Latino-ness or your Latina-ness, that you're going to wrap yourself in the colors of the company. If you work for Bank of America and you don't take care of the brand, or you don't represent the brand in Wales, people feel like, are we going to give her that job? You know, she's got to go out in the community and talk to people, and I'm not quite sure she's ready. You have to erase the fact that I know who the company is, what the brand is standing for, and that I am going to be an excellent voice for the company. General Mills put up money, cash, and made me a first mid-career loan executive, not because I got a pretty smile, because I made it crystal clear I knew what I was doing. I opened the very first Capitol Grill. I helped develop the concept, so that's why they hired me. But then when they saw me in action in the community, they said, I like the way he moves. I like the way. But last thing, and I'll stop here, you have to be open to coaching. I would tell people, what am I doing wrong? Ozzy, what am I doing wrong? And you say, well, you know, it's pretty good. No, Ozzy, what am I doing wrong? And when you finally push Ozzy far enough, he said, well, you need to get your fingernails done. You can't be in a corporate...
That's something I would say, actually.
You can't be in a corporate spot, you know. You got to make sure you got collar stays in your shirt so your things aren't... You might have the knowledge, but you don't look the part. You got to be packaged. Now, I can't be so far over the top that people go, wow, did you see the outfit that Jerry had on today? Oh, my goodness. So these things really matter for you to move from one department or from one role and position to another, or move from one company to the next. When they see you being excellent and they show that you have values and integrity that is consistent with the company, they say, we will give her the keys to the Mercedes. We will give her the keys to the Porsche. And we will let you and send you to places that you should go because there's something going on down there that you need to know about.
I love that. Rapid fire question before we close. We talked about power moves at the beginning, and power moves are important because those are how we grow and we say yes and we reach out to people. But Ozzy, I think it was you that talked about your personal brand. And many of us might not have a finger on what our personal brand is. And that's critically important because part of elevating our voice and showing, advocating for ourselves is we have to be clear who we are so that then other people can then be clear. Because if we have no idea, then how can others truly put a finger on us and say, yes, that person deserves the role or the Mercedes. So I want to hear what your either power word is that represents you or what your personal brand is. And they didn't know this was happening.
No. That's a new one.
Whoever wants to start.
I'll go first, and so I'll be fast. You have to, for me, I'm strategic. In fact, Jim Hance, who was the former vice chairman of Bank of America, served on the board of directors at Johnson Wills, my alma mater. And he said to me, Jerry, how the hell did you get to be so strategic? I said, I'm one of 6 kids. I'm the middle child, okay? If I was going to get a pork chop, I better figure out how I was going to get there. So for me, and when you say who you are, people got to say, yeah, that's him. They know. I bring energy in the room. I always bring energy. I'm always creative, and I'm always strategic. I'm thinking about ways I can help you and what you're doing and things I learned from running an association and what I can learn, what companies I can bring to Ozzy over here. So more restaurant companies are using your services. And you, my goodness, I just got to learn from you. So know your 3 things. Make sure they fit you. And if you were to say these are the 3 things, people go, yeah, that's you.
Yeah, she threw this one in there. I'll add on what he said. I think one thing that we talk a lot in some of our programs around personal branding is I always remember the 3 C's is making sure that it's clear, consistent, and constant, right? And for me, I think one thing that has been clear in not just my current role, previous roles, the boards that I sit on and the things that I'm involved with is serving as an advocate for access and equity. I, being first generation college graduate, growing up in a low income household, but also being the first girl and the first daughter in a traditional, strict Mexican Catholic household where gender roles were well defined. I knew early on, and something that has been consistent across the board is pushing back. And even when Dad's like, no, you'll stay here and go to the local college. I'm like, no, Dad, I love you, but. No, Dad, I love you, but no, throughout my entire, not only growing up. And so that's been something that has been consistent in terms of being able to advocate, to push back, ensuring that I am serving as that advocate. And the other last thing I'll add on is that we're talking about gaining those sponsors, getting promotions, getting visibility. I think it's, and everybody's touched on it, is making sure that you have that proximity constantly with folks, right, that are decision makers that can help you with opportunities, but also never losing sight of who you are. One quote that I love when we talk about personal branding is by Oscar Wilde, which says, "Be yourself, everybody else is taken." Because I think sometimes we have an example of someone we look up to, like, an Oprah Winfrey, or, I'm going to do exactly. But people can tell when you're not being authentic to who you are. And that could be, embracing your cultura, embracing how you pronounce your name, things like that it's not about changing who you are. It's about understanding your environment and adapting, whether it's how you're influencing, how you're communicating, but never changing and compromising who you are. And I think that's especially now important and very important to me to be at a time where I think we're being asked to I know this is not rapid fire, sorry, to tone it down. I think it's time to double it down and to get even louder. And that's going, hopefully, is part of my brand as well.
So I'll maybe answer it in a different way, because maybe I'm also trying to be who I believe some of the leaders at LCDA are. Once again, have had the honor to meet many exceptional leaders. We had to interview everyone who is interested in being part of LCDA, so I do get to speak to a lot of individuals. The most successful ones are the humbled ones. The ones, and I can sense it right away, like right when they introduce themselves. When they start the story with, I have been honored to, is very different with, I did this, I did that, I did this, I grew this, I grew that. And I have seen that to be incredibly a successful trait in anyone that's navigating this boardroom space, because there's a lot of declines and rejections and why didn't I get this? You know, it's not like a typical role that you apply for and they give you feedback to say you didn't have this skill set or that skill set. A lot of the times they just say, we went somewhere else, and you have to be comfortable with that. And we work with a lot of people that want to learn how to fix, you know, the process. What did I do wrong? How can I go better? I said, you know, we don't know. They probably just found someone that was recommended behind the scenes, and that's it. Someone knew someone more than someone knew you. So, but I think those who are authentic, humbled, and empathetic, even at that level, is a trait that will continue to get you far. So hopefully I personify that as well in the way that I come to my team, my family, being humble and empathetic, because I am very grateful for where I'm at.
All right. I love all of those. You know what? For a long time, I didn't really recognize or know who I was. And I think, Ileana, you and I have talked about that in the past, like not really knowing who you are. And, you know, because I was born and my parents are from Colombia, right? But I grew up in Mississippi. I grew up around mostly, you know, gringos. So, I mean, you know, that's what it was, Mississippi. But I was born in New York, so I never fit in anywhere. I didn't fit in, you know, with people. When I would go to cousins in Colombia, I didn't fit in there because they call me gringa. When you know, y'all know the story, right? So I developed my brand because I felt it was so important to really find my roots. And so I'm the gringa Latina with a Yankee rebel attitude because I was born in New York. And I said, and my passion is to really see others like I wanted to be seen when I was a little girl. And so I want to elevate everyone that I know has potential to be more than they can see in themselves. And so that's what my passion is, and that's what I love to do for others, bring other women, other men, other people up the ladder with me and elevate them even above. Because when you see them, you realize, I did that. I helped them. And so that is what my passion is, and that's what my, I think, brand is as well.
I love that. Thank you so much again for sharing your stories, your passion, your voice, and your power moves. Truly appreciated. Okay, so we're going to move along to our next panel, but just if you want, we want to take a quick picture while our next speakers come to the table. You want to take, yes, it was. Oh, down here? Okay, we're going to take a picture down here while people can come in. And I want to invite to the stage Magda Esola, Nora Aguirre, and Shay Shearer. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. ¿Cómo están, familia? Before I start, I really want to thank Bank of America. Can every Bank of America employee please stand? Every associate, please stand. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Without you guys, this wouldn't happen. So, we have, from earning to owning, these incredible people here with me. Nora, thank you. Nora flew 12 hours to be here with us.
Thank you.
So we have Shay. He is our Southeast Region Executive Business Banking with Bank of America. Shay, thank you. Nora Aguirre is our #1 Latino real estate agent in Nevada and our past president for NAREP 2024. let's dive in all the questions so we get to lunch on time. Can you, each one of you, take us back to the moment you shifted from just earning to truly thinking about building wealth? What sparked that mindset that changed for you? We'll start with you, Shay.
Hear me? Okay. First of all, I'm honored to be here. I want to thank you all for the time here. Ileana, if you're still in the room, that was awesome this morning, and the panel was great. I'm so glad your daughter's here. For me, I call it a 4-year gap year between my first semester of college and when I finished in the military. So when I got out of the military, my folks encouraged me to go sit down with a financial advisor who was a family friend, not much interest in talking to me, and we put together a plan, long-term plan, with the very little money that I had. And I still anchor to that plan today, but that's really what woke me up, is getting guided advice on how I was going to sort of craft my future.
Wow. Nora?
Thank you. Oh my God, the panel, I think it's already worth, all of our time here today, so that was wonderful. Well, for me, there's definitely a lot of different moments, because like Teresa, I'm an immigrant, so I was born in Mexico, and I came to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is my home now, very young, and so there's a lot of definitely fear, and you grow up with a lot of, being unworthy, et cetera, et cetera. And so there was a lot of moments that led to me really thinking bigger, which is so important, right? But the one moment that really connected with me where, oh my God, like it shook me and it shifted me, where I have to build something that's worth something for my family, right? I had been working super hard till that point. I was also in the military, Savannah National Guard. So I've, been a great worker, like a lot of our Latino community is, right? Really great worker, hard worker. So to that moment, I was in the real estate business and I was working for someone else. So I was kind of leading a sales team, the sales force. I didn't see myself as a person in front of the stage. I always saw myself as a great supporter on the back of the stage. And I pride myself in that. And I'll tell you, the moment that it changed for me was when there was some shifts going on within that kind of company, that dynamic that I was working with. And I wasn't necessarily, too happy with it, but it was just, it was a shift, and I knew it was just going to be harder. By then, I had already been investing a lot of hours, long hours, in helping, build this team up, and a lot of sacrifice and all that. My son at that time was 7, 8 years old. And, I didn't have too much time with him because, again, I was a hardworking mother. And in that moment, we were riding, I remember exactly when it was, that we were riding in the car. And I was like, okay, there's a lot of change happening. I'm going to have to there's more work ahead of me. And financially, I wasn't really where I was making a lot of money. Like, I wasn't making a whole lot of money. But I looked at my son and we were talking, and I said, hey, Bobby, if you had, describe your dad, because I didn't spend a lot of time, so I always felt like it was quality that I was giving, and I think as a mother and as, there's always that question. But I asked him, I said, if you had to describe your parents, because I wanted to know his opinion. At the end of the day, I think as a mother, that's whose opinion ultimately, as a parent, you probably care the most at the end of your life. So I said, at 7, 8 years old, what can he say and how can he describe his father and his mother? He went in and he described my husband, and this and that, and went on about it, and then I said, okay. And I said, and how would you describe your mommy? And so he told me at that time, he said, a working mommy, right? And then he was done, right? And in that moment, I took that in, and I was like, okay. So it's time for you to absolutely and I was upset and I was emotional, and still today you can see that I'm emotional, but it was such an important moment, because if I hadn't had that moment, it wouldn't have shifted me to owning the fact that I needed to show something for the hard work that I was doing. And financially, to that moment, I didn't have much to show financially for it. And that all those sacrifices at that moment, financially, is like, oh, so what am I going to show up with? So I said, okay. So I took the opportunity with the changes that were happening, and I said, you know what? I've helped someone else
build an amazing sales force and really show up, it is time that I do it for myself. So in that moment, I said, I have to take the stage. I have to go to the front and I have to build true wealth because the sacrifices have to mean something. And so that was a huge motivator, and you can tell that it's still today. And I'm in this position because there's always those moments in our life that are going to really push us to another moment. Sometimes they're very scary. And for me, the motivation wasn't necessarily just me. It was my family. It was, what am I going to show for it later? And so hard work is wonderful. And as Latinos, I think we have that. As Latinas, we have that ingrained in us. But I have to find what truly shook me to the point where I'm going to take action and get uncomfortable, go in front of the stage and build something great, which in that moment I did. I started my own team, and, that was 13 years ago. And so, yeah, and financially and, building portfolio and all of this, the next thing comes from that because there's a lot of challenges that come with building wealth, right? And, that was it.
Thank you, Nora.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yes,
It was
it's
a long
a bigger
answer.
why that got us where we are, right?
Yeah.
So, Shay, from your work with business owners and families across the Southeast, what are the most common barriers you see people face when trying to grow and protect wealth, and who tends to face the steepest climb?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say from my experience, and I was in wealth management for a long time before I was in business banking, so I come from sort of both sides, and it's the notion of the ego getting in the way of success, right? When we think about, and I can tell there's a lot of pride and ego in this room, and that's awesome, and for the right people, at which I think I'm in a room filled with them, who you are and what you do becomes intertwined. Right. And I think everybody here, what you all do from a business owning perspective, you fuel the economy, you fuel the workforce. And at the end of the day, feet are sore. I don't know if Ozzy's here. I'm kind of trying to hide my hands because I don't want to be recommended to get a manicure after this. But when I think about when you don't bank and invest at the same time and at the same place or with the same guided advice, it sort of starts to separate. So, there's an old great definition of wealth management that all wealth management starts with an operating account followed by a written plan to achieve your financial objectives with periodic reviews. And that's a really important aspect that you take with that. I'm going to play just a quick audience participation game real quick. And this falls under the notion of what we call short-termism. So if a few people could just scream out, how long do you think the average stock is held in the United States? 6 months, 1 month? Anyone else? 15 years? 43 seconds.
I was going to say 3 weeks.
So when you think about this, now it's a bit of a rigged question because a lot of it falls into high frequency and high velocity trading, which is about 70% of the market. Who said 6 months, by the way? So 6 months is when it's a traditional, equity class sort of investment like we would just do from a self-directed perspective. It's about 7 months, and that's actually reducing a little bit. And when you really start reading into short-termism, it's kind of fascinating because you don't have a long-term approach. And to me, the barrier falling into short-termism, right? And it's really easy, right? CNBC in the morning, here's everything you're going to buy and sell today, right? So I think when you sort of deviate, then look, there's some great bargains out there sometimes, but when you think about from your family's perspective and building wealth, you really have to avoid, I think, the short-termism. And then not having a plan, right? I mean, I think you can get very interesting from a planful standpoint with the right advice and the luxury when you get into a business owner with banking and investing and they're integrated in the same way, that's when you can really start to take advantage of things. So that would be my answer to your question.
Wow, thank you so much. 43 seconds, guys. I learned something new today. Thank you for sharing. Nora.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we do, and I come from the perspective of no financial, background, and all these things, right? Immigrant. And I say that just I don't know who's in the room that has a more advanced kind of, or started in a much more advanced place, but where I started was kind of at the bottom. And I think one of the biggest things is as you're growing your income, right? So you're growing your income. That's the first thing you have is you're making a lot of money. I think that it's very important to understand the importance of
making money, and then from there grabbing and really investing, and then begin to have the discipline, to get close to people that are doing it 2-3 steps ahead of you, and being a student in that way, right? So as, real estate, there's a saying, you don't get rich from selling real estate, you get rich from owning real estate. And there's different ways you can do that. There's different ways that you can leverage yourself in the real estate side. So yeah, you can grow your portfolio, but it's so important in the beginning to just take it one step at a time, make it simple for yourself and get with people that are 2 steps ahead of you. Never feel that you can't ask a question, because you never know where this person started, and they might find a lot of joy in really teaching someone that's maybe at your level and bringing them to kind of along the journey. And I think many times I think the ego is important, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs where real estate agents, like, you show that you make a lot of money, but then you don't have investments. You don't even, you don't have a rental portfolio, or you don't have, your stocks. And you don't want to admit that many times. So that's the reason why you sometimes won't go to those people. You don't want to, put yourself out there. And guess what? I have a saying that I love. It's shameless. Sinvergüenza, in a very good way, right? You have to be shameless to pursue and not be embarrassed. To put yourself in that position of, like, actually don't know. Can you, many real estate agents, you would be surprised if you start asking them if they own real estate or if they own, investment accounts. Many of them will not have that right education, because they started just being somebody that's very good with people. And then from there, it needed to develop something greater. So I think simplify it for yourself, follow people that are doing it already for you, and everything costs money, or it costs time. Be in the rooms where also people are teaching this information, and take up that space and really absorb.
Thank you, Nora, and we'll stay with you on this question. Real estate has long been called one of the most accessible paths to ownership, but accessible doesn't feel that way for a lot of people right now. Who is this market leaving behind, and what advice do you give those folks?
Gosh, man, I think when you're saying who's it leaving behind, obviously I think our younger generation, they're gonna have a more difficult time, obviously, and I do think that the home ownership or reaching that goal is tough. When people talk about housing, and I say this through also like the political lens, or through your local, government, there was a lot of conversation about, oh, we need more housing, and there was a lot of money that was given to creating more housing. And then when I would sit in some of these rooms, it was incredible that they were some of these nonprofit organizations, and that were advocating for housing and trying to get more funding. They were advocating for housing for rental stock, right? And so that is why it's so important for people like ourselves that really believe in ownership. We're in those rooms, and we're saying, hold on, like, we don't want to create a population that's a renter, mentality. We have to bring back the notion that in America, the people that own their own home, those are the people that have a leg up in really building something for themselves as far as, their net worth, right? And so I understand that there's some cities that it's more difficult, but again, it's the long-term plan. It's not the short-term, I'm going to go ahead and build equity in 5 years, and now, like, in 2015, now everybody doubled their equity. No, it's really a long-term plan, like it always has been. It's just that we were, these last 10 years, 12 years in real estate, we got a little, very lucky. There was a lot of opportunity, but the normal thing is you hang on to it and you build wealth over time instead of, wasting that. So I think that our youth, we need to pour into them. We need to, cut them some slack. We need to be really advocating for the right, programs and the right information, not just kind of make it into a general, right? And we have to understand the power of ownership and advocate for it in whatever level we represent, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Nora. And on that, about programs, Shay, are you aware of any programs that can help facilitate home ownership?
I am, but can I play with her question just a little bit? Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
So look, if you look at any recovery that this country's ever had, it's on the heels of homeownership and a housing boom. We sort of got lost at the bar a little bit, I think, from an interest rate perspective. Historical interest rates that will most likely, at least in my lifetime, never be seen again, that 2.5%, 3% rates that are out there. Then it goes up to 7 to 8%. We're anticipating, this is my opinion, this is not bank advice here, so I want to disclaim myself a little bit here. But we're anticipating probably another half point to come out, certainly with the new Fed chair that's coming in. But what we're sitting on right now is, in the history of the United States, more equity in housing than we've ever had before. But you've got a real big problem because most people that want to move can't, right? The buying power has been greatly diminished. So now, I was looking last week, if we get that half point, you can start to look at a 7-year ARM, 4 3/8-ish, which is radically different than the 7 1/4, sometimes double or triple where you've been. So the anticipation right now, if you're starting to follow the trend line, is hopefully this is going to be a really interesting time. A lot of geopolitical factors that are overlaid on that. But homeownership is, I think, core to wealth building. It's, behind stocks, bonds, it's the third asset class that people build wealth in. And we've got such an opportunity. If you think about, again, record levels that are sitting in equity, and the people that are counting on that equity have not been able to lock it because of affordability. And I think that's going to start to resonate. So I don't want to jump in too much on your question, but I think it's a very interesting time as we process this. Okay, so I'm going to fully disclose, my wife is an oral surgeon. And my kids do not like growing up with that as their mother. It's a lot of floss, not much sugar. So I'm thankful that my mom didn't do it, but I'm super proud of my wife. But one of the things that we do and we've done to tie this back up is we do this thing called a personal wealth outlook. And look, I've been at Merrill for 20 years. I've been at Bank of America for 20 years, but I've been a Merrill client for 26 years now. And everything with my wife is a dental analogy, right? So she looks at this personal wealth outlook, which we do twice a year, as our household teeth cleaning, which I hate teeth cleaning. You almost have to strap me down, that noise. But it's a very important thing, and we've brought our kids into it, right? And when you think about this, and I'm going to align this to a program we have at the bank called Better Money Habits. I do a class I've had 3 children. I do a class I've done it for a long time through their elementary school. They're older now. But I did Better Money Habits there. I was also a scout leader, so I did it there as well. And it's accessible. And all I did was basically get on our site, which you just get on the Bank of America website and go to Better Money Habits. But what it does is there's a lot of grant programs. So it really hits all ages. You start early. And I think that I'll try to weave the Better Money Habits part into it. But from a home ownership perspective, we have one of the top grant programs in the world. We do them through the community. Hopefully you're aware of in Nevada. And it works really well, and we're growing with it, right? I think when you look at the way we give back and the way we look at our different census tracts and different things that are out there, we have a lot of programs that are specifically designed and catered for that. All those can be found through Better Money Habits. So, and then it's our affordable housing programs and other programs that will pay your down payment for you when you want to buy a house.
Thank you so much, Shay. And with this, we'll end. For anyone in this room, no matter what they are starting, what they earn, or what they've been told about wealth is for, what is one concrete step they can take this week to begin moving from earning to owning? We'll start with you.
Man, in real estate, in real estate, I can tell you that the grant you speak about is really depending on who's in this room. If you are a homeowner or not, I know that not everyone's a real estate agent here, but if you're not a homeowner, that's think step one. And there's a lot of different tools. Bank of America is one that's nationwide that I love, and that in many markets may cover all of your down payment. And understanding is so important because there is different moments in the market, like in anything, that can bring an opportunity for you. And the opportunity that we're seeing right now is that, if you decide today that you wanted to buy and you've been taking care of your credit and you don't have a lot of cash, possibly aligning with somebody that has the cash and equally negotiating yourself into a home where seller is doing contribution. Not all markets are the same, right? Full disclosure. But there is a window of opportunity where you might be able to become a homeowner, buy that first property, and you can do that within the next 30 to 60 days, 90 days, and close on it and be very intentional about it. And then if you want to kind of up that, I would say that many of you may be in a position to be able to start off with your first property as a multifamily, and you're not going to get the home of your dreams in that first purchase. That's not what it's all about. This is your future rental, and you're intentional about it, right? So it's being strategic. It's understanding that there's sacrifices that you have to make today to live better tomorrow and put yourself in positions where you're ready for opportunities. I think that we consume a lot. Everybody earns, great earners, and we spend so much of that on Starbucks every day, and that is that hurts in the long run. And so I think that home ownership is the first one, and the second one is you have to understand there has to be a sacrifice, and it starts today. With that, you can make a difference. You can really make 2026 a year where you kind of put yourself in that position to do things differently. Yeah.
Excellent, Shay.
So there's been a lot of cool sayings today. Embarrassingly, I don't understand them, right? I can't translate them. Teresa, what was the one that you said about it was translated for me at the table, which means...
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So,
you got it.
Yeah, well, someone told me, and I'm stealing that not with as much, as cool as it sounds with the way you said it. Okay. But the one thing to give a bit of a kind of a Kentucky saying, and stick with me on this one, in a breakfast of bacon and eggs, the chicken's interested, but the pig's committed, right? So the one thing that I would say is when you're thinking about this is to commit. One interesting stat, I think we all are living in the middle of what's the biggest wealth transfer in history in the United States right now. Over the next decade, there's $100 trillion in assets that are going to be moving generationally. Now, 30% of that comes from business owners, right? And this is a very interesting statistic, and one that I think will wrap this up, at least my thought process on this, is that there are $22 trillion in assets at play from business owners in the United States right now, okay? 22% of those business owners bank and invest at the same place. 92% want to, right? So when you think about this, and you think about the messaging, it's to commit, to get a plan, right? First of all, and commit to that plan, stay righteous on it, and then follow it through. But to bank and invest at the same place, there's benefits that you get, whether it's at Bank of America or somewhere else to do it, right? Because you get the benefits and you get the observation on how to manage your day-to-day operating account, and then how that translates with a long-term goal in mind. And then for all the business owners in here, when I think about how quickly sometimes people decide to buy or start a business and how you prepare for it, and then you wake up one day and you're like, I think I might be ready to either transfer this to somebody in my family, that's part of the wealth transfer, or put it up for sale. That really needs to be a 5 to 7 year process. Working on how you prepare your finances to get the most value when you're selling it. The group that we have here, PSRN, is somebody that works alongside you to make sure you're getting the top dollar and you're taking all the right steps to get organized in advance of selling. So when I think about, back to committing is the first thing, and committing in a way that looks at both sides of your balance sheet, the right usage of debt, the right usage of your exit strategy, and when you're going to employ that. Those things are so critical, and they're right there for everybody to do right here today. So,
awesome. Thank you, Nora and Shay. Thank you so much.
Okay. ¿Cómo estamos, gente? ¿Cómo estamos, gente? You know what we're going to do? Because football is life, we're going to do the wave. And we're going to start from that way all the way to that one. Are we ready? Ready over there? 1, 2, 3. Woo! And I always wanted to do that. Thank you. And I lost my phone. All right. Well, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome our next speaker. If you've never met or heard Jacqueline Ruiz speak, you are in for a treat. I always feel like I'm doing pretty well in life until I listen to her. But hey, we need some inspiration every day. So she is a visionary social entrepreneur that has created 2 successful award-winning companies. Not 1, 2. I mean, she's like, oh, I'm going to do it again. So 2. She established 2 nonprofit organizations, published 38 books. I think that's more than I've ever read. 38 books on her own, and over 500 books for other authors in 34 countries. Yeah, no, that's just the beginning. That's like the warm-up. The largest collection of Latina stories in the world, and has held events in 4 continents. So she represents the 2.6% of women entrepreneurs in the United States with over 7 figures. She's a 2-time cancer survivor. And you can see and you can feel her urgency to help others because of those experiences. And finally, but certainly not least, she's one of the few Latina sports airplane pilots in the United States. So with that, please welcome Jacqueline Ruiz to the stage.
Landing. Taking off is optional, and landing on your dreams is mandatory. Some of you that have heard me speak sometimes, you know that that is my favorite phrase, because landing is mandatory. I'm going to take you to a day that changed my life. There I was. I was piloting a sports airplane. I was sitting, like any captain, on the left side of the plane, and my Amelia teddy bear was sitting on the right. I had flown all morning. I, in fact, went to the home airport. I picked up the plane. I prepared the plane, and I was flying all morning. But on my way back to my destination, something happened. You see, sometimes we encounter what we call clear turbulence. At that point, I had already accumulated over 400 landings and more than 30 emergency landings and close to a couple hundred hours of flight. So I was not a new pilot by any means. I had had many experiences in turbulence, but none like that day. I started to feel this deep fear in my heart, a fear that was so paralyzing in a place and a time when you don't want to be paralyzed. You see, my left hand flies the stick, my right hand, the RPMs of the airplane, and both of my legs control the ailerons and everything that moves. So needless to say, every part of myself was in that situation. Not 5%, but 100%. And sometimes that's what it takes to be a pilot in command of your life, to be fully present and to recognize that your actions and your decisions can determine your fate. And as I started feeling fear, and the plane would drop a foot unannounced, it would drop another foot unannounced, one of the wings would drop, level it again, right? One thing we know in aviation is aviate, navigate, communicate, in that order. You never stop flying the plane. And once I heard a psychologist that said that life was a beautiful string of pearls. And he says, every day you add one more pearl. So my journals now, one is called the One Pearl, the pocket journal is called Una Perlita, and the tiny pearl is called Mini Perlita, right?
because I never forgot that. And in that situation that I was in, it was important for me to do the one step that can save my life. But what do you do when you feel that fear that consumes you? The fear that paralyzes you, the fear that does not allow you to see beyond the horizon. And you see, I was getting closer to my destination, and I could see runway 27 getting closer and closer, but yet so far away. And I basically continued flying the plane, but at any moment I could have just dropped the controls. There was a point where I was so scared that I said, I looked to the right and I looked to the left and I said, well, which is going to be my grave today? The river or the football field? And in that moment, I felt even more fear, right? Because I'm like, I don't give up. I mean, I've survived cancer twice. I have survived stigmas. I learned English and German. I'm on my way to become a sommelier. I mean, what can you achieve, right, with that beautiful journey and that beautiful string of pearls? I'm like, this is not the time for me to give up right now. And one vision that kept me going was, I am going to land that plane like butter because I'm hugging my kids when I land. And that greater vision kept me going through those adversities. So I'm going to ask you, what keeps you going? What is your why? What is the one thing, the vision that is greater than you that allows you to overcome any turbulence, whether you can see it or not? It has been 15,718 years since God gave me the opportunity to come to this world. And it's also been 2,048 days since that fateful day. The question to you is, what do you do with every single day that you have? What if I break it down and I say every day has millions of micro moments? Because to me, that's how life is measured. Life is measured in micro moments of joy. And from the tiny little pearl, mini perlita, to the big pearl that completes that beautiful journey. So I want you to think about your own journey. And so many people tell me, I don't have a story. I don't have a story. I'm not inspiring. I don't know what to say about my journey. And I'm here to tell you that you do. Because just that fateful day that I had 2,000 days ago, right? I also recognize that that moment was a moment in that day, in that second, that allowed me to decide that I wanted to live, that it was the first time that I was truly the pilot in command of my life, and that I was not going to give up. Because even when I had cancer at 21, and they had to reconstruct my entire digestive system, and I was told that I might die or be fed out of a tube for the rest of my life at 23, I wasn't really the pilot in command. Doctors were doing that. But how is it that the one moment that I had to make or break a decision, I was on the brink of giving up? And you might feel like you're going through a clear turbulence. You might feel like you go through the struggles. But when you recognize that the light enters through the crack, like a beautiful Chinese proverb says, or kintsugi, which is the Japanese tradition of breaking ceramics and breaking pieces of art and putting them back together with beautiful gold paste. That is a one-of-a-kind piece, and all those breaks and all those situations is what makes you so beautiful and so valuable. When you think about your own journey, think about vulnerability. Think about the fear that you've experienced. Think about the experiences that you've had in your life. Think about the legacy that you want to create. Think about that greater vision that is bigger than you, that can only be achieved if you have grit and resilience, can only be achieved if you dream that there could be a beautiful new reality that is bigger than any situation that you're experiencing. And like Patricia Mota, my dear friend, said, it's faith over fear. Faith is believing in what you don't see. And see, as a pilot, I get to kind of see both equations because I get to see the whimsical nature of soaring the skies, but I also get to land that plane. So the homework that I'm going to give you today, as you explore your own beautiful, amazing flight and your journey, is explore the 8-point story arc. And you'll find a beautiful, profound way of sharing your story with the world. And remember that if you think you don't have a story, I'm going to challenge you to go deep into every day of your life. And not only every day, but every hour and every minute and every micro moment. And you'll discover the most beautiful story that has ever been told. My name is Jackie, and I'm the pilotina. Remember, taking off is optional. Landing on your dreams is mandatory.
All right, so now we have our next panel. I'd love to welcome everybody up. Don't worry, guys, we're almost at lunch. So, yes, come up. Laura, salió. Sí. Un poquito cerca. Por si acaso. All right, so we are going to be talking about the female economy, so which is a very viable economy. So I want to start with this. Hopefully she'll come in here, but there's a conversation happening right now across industries, across leadership circles, across communities about power. And not just power in title, power in influence, power in decision-making, and power in dollars. Because when we look at the data, something becomes very clear. Women are not a niche economy. We are 50% of the population, and we birth and raise the world. We are the real driving force. In the United States alone, women influence or control an estimated 70 to 80% of consumer spending. That means the majority of what is bought, built, and scaled is touched by the decisions women make every single day. And when we expand that lens even further, we see that Latino communities contribute over $4 trillion to the US GDP. And obviously, if that were a country, we would rank among the largest economies in the world. So when we talk about the female economy, especially inclusive of Latina women, we are not talking about potential. We are talking about proven economic impact. And yet, there is still a gap between contribution and ownership, between influence and recognition, between participation and power. So today's conversation is not just about what women spend, it's about what we build, what we own, and what we shape, and what we are ready to claim. So I'm excited for this panel and for this conversation, my esteemed guests. I would love for you guys to each do a quick intro so our audience can learn a little bit about you, and then we'll go right into some questions. So I'll start with you, Millie.
Hey, everybody. I'm so humbled to be here today. This is amazing what's going on just across the world and the country, but especially here when I see a group of Latinas just, I hate microphones. Everybody can hear me, right? But so I'm Milly Carrasquillo. I am a proud Puerto Rican born in the South Bronx. I have worked in the Spanish language media television industry for 30 years, representing Latinos in what I call corporate environments. I represent them standing there, telling and sharing our stories and looking at data and using that data to help them also recognize the potential of how we influence categories, not just Latina women, all women. because at the end of the day, we represent 70 to 80% of all the consumption that happens. So we're just like what I always say, we're the chief household officer of the show in those environments. So clearly, when you're speaking to consumption and money being spent, you're speaking to her, the decision maker. So technically, she's a strategist. So that's really what I like to do. I'm a consultant today as well. Founder, I sit on the board of a charter school for young girls in the South Bronx. I'm also privileged and humbled to do that. And that's really what I'm doing. My biggest goal is putting clothes on data, because data can be interpreted in so many ways. So I always try to add a lens to that, because their lens sometimes doesn't always meet the beauty that I see each and every day.
My name is Patricia Patty Ramirez Pinckney, and this is how proud I am to be Latina and Mexican American. Ramirez is my middle name because I decided that Pinckney was not totally me when I got married. You know, I wanted people to know that I am Latina, and that has become a superpower. What I do, I'm a fractional chief strategist and marketing officer for different companies like the Latino Donor Collaborative and Perform Free, other organizations around the nation and internationally. And I specialized on innovation. And I like to say this in Spanish because I think it's taking a different level of importance right now. My slogan is Encontrando la forma de la nueva forma. We need to find a new form, a new shape for this new way of living that we're all facing. So it's wonderful to be here, and I'm really, really honored. Thank you so much.
So you guys know a little bit about me already. So I have my own real estate team in Las Vegas. Through that, I was also able to be a founding president for a NAREP local chapter there in Las Vegas in 2015. Through that, I kind of, did the leadership there locally for 2 years and then moved on to nationally. I was the 2024 national president for NAREP, which we represent the largest Latino business organization in the country. So through that, what I can say is that I've grown to love data, because everybody does. It's important to understand it. It tells a story, and I think the story that data tells us right now is very clear. The Latinas are the force of this country in regards to entrepreneurship. And so it's exciting, and thank you for having me be part of this panel. And so yeah.
For that. So each of you has been working in the intersection of women, leadership, and economic influence in different ways. Based on what you're seeing today, what is the real progress, and where are we still falling short? We'll start with you, Nora.
So I think the real progress is that, like Latinos are saying, okay, I have a voice, I'm here, I see myself, and there's other people that acknowledge me. I think that we're stepping into that role. Where we're falling short is I still do believe that we don't think that we're worthy. We don't think that we're smart enough. We don't think that we have the accolades. And I think it's because it's very natural, not just Latina women, but I think there's a lot of literature around this, is that it's just our natural way of being, right? We're willing to be in the backside, let somebody else be in the front. And so I think right now it's getting really to understand our power and networking with each other to that point. And I'm, I mentioned my son earlier in the panel. He's a male, so I'm for males. It's not about, Latina. It's not that type of conversation. I just do feel that the woman coming into this space of owning, who she is and what the power that we bring to the economy is super important. And if we have the brave voices, it's just, I think that we are going to do so good. I have a little story, and I'll share that a little bit later. I don't want to take too much time, but just to give you guys my perspective on how I think that we can, what the data is showing, and that we have Latinas really stepping in and saying, this is it.
regardless of, we're managing a business, we're managing a household, and amongst other things, is that it is our time, absolutely, and this country needs us. This, soft approach, this approach of it's not that strong. It's that smooth leadership style of collaboration that really is needed across, the country, across the world. But I think that approach we need to step into that and be heard, for sure.
We'll go to you, Patricia.
Well, I absolutely love what you say, because absolutely we need even this word like soft skills. Yeah. Are they really soft skills? They're a superpower, and we women have them naturally. And they have been kind of looked down upon for a long time in corporate America, in the whole world, not only corporate America. And the shift that is happening right now with AI, we have, don't miss the panel this afternoon about AI. We're going to be talking more about this, but we are going to have, and we are having access to this cerebral intelligence. And we will all, but not this heart intelligence, this other way of doing things. And I used to hear a lot of wise people, like all of the voices that we have been hearing, and thinking, yes, great, but how does that look? Because if I look at the system is still the same. Maybe we are checking more boxes, maybe we have a little bit more of representation, but it's really not shifting. And so, and this is research. I love data too. Data is my world. I adore data. So it's really not moving the needle. It's moving some numbers, but not really what's happening. So I would invite you to think in terms of like, how are we going to do something different? Not how are we going to fit better into the system, but how are we going to make a new system? That's the form that we have the power to do. And just very quickly, I just lifted with one of my clients. They have 350 million clients. They're one of the biggest organizations in the world. And we were working with a chairman to bring a project. I can't talk about the details, but we were in an innovation, I was leading an innovation retreat with these heads of the company. And I invited a woman from Paraguay. She didn't have any idea of the mentality or anything. And the first day they were shocked. Like we could see that they were like not very comfortable with the soft skills. We didn't talk about how to analyze the situation, but like, where are we going to go? Where is the emerging future wanting us to go? At the end, the chairman he said he had never experienced anything like that. And we have a plan that really, I don't want to brag, but it's amazing. So we all have that power. We all have that power of making things differently.
Well, to build on what my two panelists also said here, for me, when I look at the data and I see what's going on, the fact that the Latino community, in terms of, let's say, just looking at the female community, the female population, the Latinas have contributed 74% of just sheer population growth in the past 3 years. So clearly, there would be no growth in many sectors if there wasn't for the Latino. Oh, okay, sorry. Like I said, I don't. Okay, what I'm saying is that in the past, when we talk about the female base just overall, but within that, the Latina community, we're fueling about 74% of the population growth, within that space. So that means today, for the next decades, many decades, the growth is coming through that. But what is happening also is that we're so young that where does that fit into what the economic profile could look like for the female? So it's totally upward, huge opportunity, huge scale, the way I see it. Because we're going to have generational wealth, we're going to have inheritance wealth, we're going to have variables as what we're providing today as a foundation for financial literacy, for growing within the leadership ranks, and how does that translate? So right now, about 33% on a yearly growth rate of women enter the workforce every year. So that's a huge thing. What's still the challenging part for me is the difference in the pay gaps that we still see across, women making 18% less than male counterparts on an average basis. But when you look at it not multi-generation, you look at it within Hispanic and or Black, then that number becomes much more pronounced, meaning for every dollar for non-Hispanic, it's 82 cents, but for Latina, it's about 53 cents, 57 cents per dollar. So if you consider that person's wealth, if we were getting equal pay gap, equal pay, that could, in a lifetime, that could bring up to like $400,000 to $1 million into that profile, into that platform, into that home, into that environment per person. So those are the kind of things that I feel very optimistic about. And why do I feel that way? Because I know that right now about 47% of females are getting their bachelor's degree compared to about 34% of males. So that education is key, because education then leads into the career spacing. But then again, not every job is available, as we've seen through the pandemic and all the things that we're here and we're up against. But then we also see what's happening with businesses. About 47% of all new businesses are now owned by women, of entrepreneurial businesses. So clearly, again, we're seeing a contribution of what the women's bringing, about $2.5 trillion in revenue a year into the marketplace. Hispanic businesses growing within that space, Latinas, are growing at about 45% in the past, I want to say 5 years, contributing $19 billion to the marketplace. So big numbers. So for me, it's just about how do we then have an opportunity then to increase financial literacy, have that momentum, and continue what that means, for everyone. So that's what I would say about overall female economy. We still have barriers to break, and that's, as we continue the conversation here, we can get more into that.
We certainly still have barriers to break. I pulled a study from McKinsey Global Institute. It said about lost GDP. Up to $28 trillion could be added to the global GDP if women participated equally in the economy. So the capability is there. We obviously have a lot of work to do to make all of that happen and change the systems that prohibit that. So this is not just a conversation for women. What role do allies play in advancing the female economy, and what does meaningful support actually look like in practice? We'll start with you, Patricia. Patty. I personally don't like these words like allies, because it has brought us to a place where we're like checking the box, or people say, I'm an ally. And what does that mean? I like to talk about how it looks. And for me, one of my most incredible allies, I would say, or supporters, was an Asian man who I was having a lot of trouble. I had not had a single day off for like three months. I had a launch to achieve. It was like hard deadline. And one day I had a meeting with him, and I was just crying. And the next day he brought a book, and I still remember the words. The words say, life is difficult. And the moment that you accept that, life is no longer difficult. To this day, I remember that. He saw me not only as a woman, a Latina, but he could see me as a person. And he changed my life forever. Like, that was the beginning of me shedding this victimhood flavors that sometimes our efforts take, and that I think are harming our polarity now with men versus women, or this group versus this group. Those things are misinterpreted. I know that most of us don't believe in that, but they can be misinterpreted like that. So I think it's crucial. In my life, it has been crucial, and they have come from places I had no idea were going to come from.
Can you repeat the question?
What role do allies play?
Well, the same thing that
in advancing.
Pat just said. I think allies it's a little different word in my mind. I feel for me, it's about creating, partnerships. Because when I sit at a table, I'm there to partner with you, and I want you to see me as somebody that's going to partner with you to whatever we're trying to do to help that move that forward, right? And then allowing what I heard this morning is making sure that your voice is a voice that's being heard. Because if not, then it's going to be la carita bonita, because then you're just sitting there when you look pretty, right? That's not what's going to happen. And you've seen that in many corporate environments. They invite somebody in the room and they just sit there and they just talk and they just get looked at. No, the partnership to speak your voice, speak out loud. When I entered this business many years ago, like yourself, I was able to have a partner that allowed me to come into an environment where, in reality, I was there to represent the company, but they were trying to sell something to Spanish language television. And I was there because I was Latina, but because I also spoke Spanish and I was bilingual. So as the team was speaking, how does that interpretation work? So that there's also where, what does the word ally mean? Here I am, a Latina, and our client, the Spanish networks, are speaking in Spanish, speaking about how these gentlemen that I'm representing, I'm sitting with, are taking their money, making their businesses not work. And of course, they turn to me and go, Millie, what are they saying? And of course, I'm an Afro-Latina. They're sitting across the table. They think I'm just a black race. And they're shocked. They're like, oh my God, what did we, my goodness, she knows what we just said. And then they said, Millie, what did they say? And I was like, oh my God, like this sucks, This really sucks. This is my partners and those are my allies over there, right? And I quickly just turned, because again, they were like, again, the risk of putting money in my pocket. That's like, I heard that word this morning, right? The riskiness that what do you say? I turned and said, listen, I really don't, and I kind of said this that way. I said, I don't know if I belong in this room because this position really sucks. And I said, but what they're saying is you're stealing their money and you're not giving them what they deserve. And they're telling, and then they're also saying that you're like a bunch of idiots and some words that I wouldn't translate. And I said, so can I please, be kind of excused here, right? But my boss, when I walked out of the office, he walked out behind me, the president of the company, because he hired me directly, and he said to me, get back in there. And I was like, he goes, you belong in there. First, you spoke up, and you made a fair decision. Meanwhile, I thought I was going to be fired when he followed me out into the hallway for not, just repeating the thing. So first of all, I think it's being present, the focus, and then just earning your space. And if you're in the room, you own it. Don't ever shed. Don't ever, and then be vigilant. Because I always say when the earth, it's like when you were a kid and I don't know, many of you played red light, green light, 1, 2, 3. And it was like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Like I always would say, when that happens in a business and the earth moves, I'm stepping forward each and every day. So it's not only my partnership. If they put me in the room, it's because they want me to do something with it, and that's my red light, green light.
So for me, I think there's two things. I think, and definitely agree. I think one is I'm a Latina and surrounded by males. I'm daddy's girl, right? And he's a Latino macho, right? And so to me, yeah, and the best thing that a male in our space can do is I don't think it's see the difference of no, I think it's the fact that what are you coming with? And I think in my family with my father, and it's like they see what you bring and they can acknowledge that. So I think as a male, what can you do as somebody that can really push forward and really see the opportunity in this time that we're in is really see what they're bringing to the table, regardless of gender, and then lean into that. Just allow them to be present, and just make sure you're kind of acknowledging that you're kind of sharing the space. I will say in that moment, in that sense, what I've experienced, I've had a lot of males that have mentored me throughout my career, and I'm very grateful. I got into business because of a male. What I've noticed, and again, a tip for our males that I think is that it's very interesting that they put us in a box, and many times they don't even realize it. They've put us in a box where we're good here, and we're growing. I mean, we're growing and we're absorbing, and we want to be more, and sometimes we don't even know ourselves. But sometimes being in that box, you as the mentor, you as that leader, we're overdue for we're coming out of the seams. Like, you need to acknowledge that, because I think many of them, because men are, naturally a little bit more analytical, a little bit more like practical, and it's like, okay, that's what this, that's what Nora does, or that's what she brings. It's like, now 5 years later, I've evolved. Like, so it calls for a different type of leader at that moment, and allowing yourself to really see that as well will put you in a great opportunity, because I think women, not just Latinas, I think we're very grateful. Mucho agradecimiento to the people that opened the door for us. And I think that relationship, can create, business opportunity, growth opportunity. So when when that person that you're mentoring is grown outside of their potential, you need to be the first one to say, you know what, you're doing it. You're out there, like go and fly. And I'm still here, even if we've reached at a capacity where maybe I can't be your mentor anymore or whatever that may be. So I think that's one. And I think two is as women, we have to really own that space because we are extremely powerful. And I think that you said it correctly. I think we are putting ourselves in that box too long. So it's not them putting us and keeping us there. It's we outgrew the box for years, and we don't want to ruffle the feathers. And so we stay there. And then we're blaming other people for it, which is the reason why I say, no, men are not keeping us anywhere. It's you yourself. You're keeping yourself there, and that's it. And if you see another Latina or another woman in a box, it's our duty to call them out as well, right? It's like, look, right? So you are bigger than that. You want to stay there, but you're bigger than that, right? And that's it. I think that's the allies and the partners in a lot of ways, right? And so, yeah.
Get yourself out of the box and help get others out of the box.
Yeah.
So I love that. We often do that in many spaces, and we understand sometimes we are seen in boxes, and what do? We sometimes just keep going, but we don't intentionally call them out or say, this is who I am now, or I've evolved. We should say that out loud sometimes. Absolutely. I've evolved. Who are you talking about? That's who I was 10 years ago, not today.
Absolutely.
So, evolving is good. It's necessary. Patty, so layering the Latino economy, what we're hearing that Latinos represent 4.1 trillion into the GDP, essentially one of the largest economies in the world. When we layer women within that, what are we understanding about the power of Latinas specifically?
Yes. Well, first of all, we have to have a reality check. And I am going to talk about what you both talked about. Like, we need to get out of our box and internalize the numbers. Literally, we have been bombarded with how we should be, who we are, all these stereotypes that sometimes when I work from Procter & Gamble, well, my career involves working for Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, BBVA, like big companies, to the smaller companies, even researchers, when they see the numbers, then they make a narrative that fits the stereotype. And when you see the numbers, like, no, that's not what the numbers say. But and they are Latinos, Latinas, and we have internalized those numbers so badly that stepping out of the box sounds easy, but we really need to really memorize these numbers. So Latinas are 1 out of 5 women in the United States. 1 out of 5. And under 20 years old, we're 1 out of 4. Okay, that's not a niche. That's mainstream. Okay, so this mainstream number is you. We are so much more powerful than we think. But we think like, I must be the exception, right? Like, I have succeeded in this. My parents were probably migrants. So I must be the exception. No, you're the rule. You need to go into those rooms and walk in knowing that you're that powerful, 4 trillion powerful. If Latinos would be an economy, it would be the 5th largest, now 4th largest economy in the world. And it is, imagine what it means. It means a lot. You're very powerful. And one last thing, companies are stumbling into these numbers. We have been called by companies that go, well, I know that Latinas are 1 out of 5, 20% of the population, but 38% of our growth is coming from Latinas. Who are they? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? Show them who are we. Show them who we are with all of our power, with the way that we think that is different, with these soft, powerful skills. That's what we bring to the table.
Can I build on a little bit on what she said? In terms of what that means, in my capacity, I've sat in front of Procter and some of the players you're saying, the amount of data that they have as personal primary data is enormous because they have real information about all of us. But when they sit there, they, like you said, they're interpreting the information, not understanding what we contribute. So as an example, the beauty category. The beauty category in this country is a $441 billion category. Hair care is 100 of that. It's like $100 billion. Within that space, 30% share is overall what's being spent. Women, on average, Latina women spend $1 for every $100 a non-Latina. Latinas spend $146. African American women, blacks, spend $159. So think about that. They shop at least 6 to 7 times a year because we don't only use one product. The frequency of using any product gets stale, and you say, okay, I want, what woman doesn't have more than 2 or 3 shampoos in her shower? Conditioners? Correct. So that there, and then in terms of the Hispanic space, of that $100 billion, we have a 30 share of that marketplace. So we represent 20% of the market. We're contributing 30% of that to the bottom line of any major brand. The same works for fast foods, the same, you name a category, and we over-index. So the value of who we are today economically is, even though we may have some of the challenges, because they're just challenges and opportunities to build and grow as Latinos and Latinas in the space, we are currently still building to the economy, contributing to the economy in such a phenomenal way that it, like she said, know the data. Because when you're sitting in front of them, it's not about, should I be here? No. We have created such cultural fluidity in this community of who we are, that we are more than mainstream. We are the difference of what is going to shape this country as we move forward.
And just speaking of data, please look out for this report that is coming out from Cantor and the Latino Donor Collaborative about the economic power of Latinas. It's really amazing. It's at the end of May.
That's exactly what I was going to lead into, because we're talking about data, and I talked less about data, but I follow the data, and that's one of the things that for me, it inspired me tremendously. Because when I saw the numbers, and I said, I have to step up, because I am an entrepreneur in my own right, and there's been things I have to step up. And so the data tells us there is a need, obviously, because there's still a lot of lack. And so how you can get your data is, for example, in our organization, we release 2 reports a year. I mean, it's important. One is just on the state of Hispanic homeownership, and it does break down by women and men and Latinos, and then also the age demographic. And then we also have another one through our sister company, the Hispanic Wealth Project, and that just is kind of the same thing, is give you a full scope of things. So beautiful reports. I know the Latino Collaborative, I've seen that report as well, and it opens up your eyes to really see the engine that we are, and that lined up with following powerful people that are doing things in our community. I think that should inspire you to say, gosh, what is my role with this, right? And if you're in this room, let me just tell you another thing too. If you're in this room, it's because there's something in you that tells you that you were built for something additional than just serving your family. That's why you're in this room, and you're wanting to grow. And whatever that call is to you, feed it with data and feed it with the information that's out there. That's what businesses do. That's they go where the numbers are, right? Where the opportunity is, right?
And then put your face on the data.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow, I love this conversation. I hope you guys are enjoying it. This is very real and honest, and important for us to internalize so that we can go out there after today and do what we need to do, what we know we should be doing. So from spending power to economic power, if women are the economic engine behind so many industries, what needs to shift for us to move from being the drivers of revenue to the architects of wealth? And you were talking a little bit about this earlier.
So I would say, gosh, there's so many things that I can talk about, but I want to talk about one thing that I've just noticed on women that are taking on their roles and leading, and even in their businesses and things, is you do need a network of powerful, you do need a network of powerful, women or men that are with you, you know, in the trenches. Somebody said it today. I think our good friend, he said, it's what they say when you're not in the room that matters, you know. And I do think, and I want to call this out because I think that as women, the soft power, I think as women, there's a way that we feel that we are supposed to kind of lean in and be a little bit more aggressive, or we see a lot of things, you know, let's be real, we see a lot of things that we don't like, you know, or our organizations, in our businesses, in our communities, and we've learned, or we think that that's the way it is, and that's the way that it should be. And I think we're in a beautiful time right now where we get to stand, is the truth, stand united and really say, no, this is not how we're going to do this anymore. We're going to do this way. Be strategic about how you want to do it, not, you know, this is the wrong way, this is the right way. You're putting me down, 1,000 years of you putting me down, I'm tired of it. No, we've been putting ourselves in that box, and that's it. So now, so I say we stand for that, for ourselves, and when we see it in our circles, in our businesses, in our community, we need to stand for it. And we need to be willing to pay the price that comes with that. Because I think that's what you allude to with Brave Voices, is there's a price to pay sometimes when you raise your voice and you say something. And sometimes that may lead to things that are not comfortable. But I think it is the moment where, as the women that are, you know, and men that really want to take this movement of, you know, women in bigger roles, women in more businesses, you have to you have to be uncomfortable, and it has to happen. And so if we all do it together, simultaneously, within our industries, within our spaces, if we recognize each other and we're like, I see, yep, you're doing the work, girl, you're doing the work, and I got you, or, you know, or thank you, right, to those that are mentoring, thank you, and we acknowledge that, I think we're gonna see so much opportunity in the next decade, you know, for the growth, right? So.
Lily, and then Tati.
Wow. Can you repeat the question again? I mean, I get into the answer. I hear the answer. I'm like, wow, that was deep. What's the question?
From spending power to economic power. Mm-hmm. If women are the economic engine behind so many industries, what needs to shift for us to go from the drivers of revenue to the architects of wealth?
Wow. I think it's even starting, like Nora would say, just in this room. There was a time when you would walk into any corporate environment, a meeting, a conference room, whatever, and there were maybe no women, one woman. Now you walk into those rooms and you look around, you're like, okay, this looks good, this looks better. So for me, this looks excellent. This is great. This is amazing, right? So how do we give each other the hand up? Because sometimes you get to a position and then you say, oh, I made it here, so how do I keep it here? You're there. There's a passion about what you've done. So how do you not only mentor, then how do you reach down and bring the next hand up? Because you got there maybe on work you did on your merit, because that's part of, you know, the challenge that we're brave voices. But then how do you then show that lesson? How do you navigate that exercise? How do you give back? That's part of it, right? Because I would always ask people, what can I do when I would get to a certain place? They say, Millie, I would want you to pay it forward, right? So then how do you turn around and then give the next hand? So that's part of it. And then I also believe that asking for what you want, sometimes you get into certain environments and you're put into a box. And I'll go over and I always say to them, is this what you really want? And they'll say, no, Millie, I'm not sure. I said, well, tell me what you want and then go get what do you need to get what you want? Right? So we need to ask questions, and we need to have answers for ourselves to the questions, because you can't be shy. You know, you're not going to get anywhere by saying, oh my God, they're going to say no. You know how many no's you're going to have to say before you get a yes? Doesn't matter. Because like the young Jackie was saying before, you know, taking off and then landing, that's a mandatory piece. You owe it to yourself to get that no, because you're giving yourself the negative no. Like, oh my God, what do I do? If I don't do that, oh my God. No. If you're here, you're present, it's the right to know and to ask. And then if I do this, then what more is there for me? Because that's the next thing. I have my goal and I have my objective. What is it? So when I sit there in front of you, oh, Millie, this is what I want you to do. This is what I want you to have. I'm like, okay, that's what you want. Can I tell you what I would like? When I get to that place, that's the part of the partnership that I was talking about before. So that's that. And then the economic system has to also change. I mean, in terms of getting investor support for the entrepreneurs, women are still not getting, we have maybe have the same business scores, but we still only get half of the funding still that our male counterparts get. So those type of things still are the inequities that even though we're as qualified, that it's like, it's not, I'm not going to call it a glass ceiling, it's just a capital resistance about where that's happened. So those are the type of things I also feel that are in the way. And when I say in the way, but there's a mountain. So either I go around you, over you, or through you, right? Because I'm going to get to what I want. And that's the attitude that I feel that's in this room, and that's why we're all here. Okay.
All right, so we're getting close to time, so we'll do this last one on rapid fire. If we stopped viewing this as an equity issue and started viewing it purely as an economic strategy, how would decisions change?
Immediately. I mean, it would be immediate, but we need to make sure that we can communicate these numbers in the right way, because I have had plenty of and probably you also, examples of and experiences where you're in front of a board, in front of the decision makers, and they see the numbers, they think, oh, that's great, yeah, great, okay, let's go back to how we used to do it, you know, or they say, oh, you're so nice, Patty, you're always so inclusive. No, I'm not trying to be inclusive. This is about business. So we need to be able to communicate. And right now, what we're seeing is this rise of our economic power that companies are stumbling into that think, oh my gosh, like I really now depend on them, you know, but we need to, and that's why I love United Latinas, just from the very first name, like United Latinas or United, we can do this. We can really, because we can by repetition, by putting our faces there, by telling them a different way of how to do things. I think that's important. And also finding new forms. Like I have so many people that have to be that finding a new form. Like now I'm starting to do one, you know, with 20 women once every couple of months, and we do that together because it's impossible. But we need to help each other. We need to show up for each other. We need to share our successes and our stories so we can all rise, make the pie bigger, not just take more pie.
I would say that, you know, I think, again, acknowledging the moment in time we have data to our favor, okay? And so who is keeping you down? And you have to ask yourself that question. Who is keeping you down? And you have to be really authentic and really honest with yourself on the answer. You know, and if you point the finger outward, you're probably wrong. The truth is it's this way, and you have to really dig there, right? And then when you do the digging to really call yourself onto that kind of that position of leadership, of mentor, you know, especially if you've, you know, accomplished something in your life, financially, in your career, in your industry, you know, there's a calling there for you to step, you know, to something bigger. And I would say this, with that, embracing the younger Latinas, the Latinas that don't have it all together, the ones that are still, you know, they have a passion because we're known for that, we're, you know, but then sometimes they don't know how to present the passion, and then that's where they're left short, is show them what's needed so that they can grow as well. Be patient, be loving, right? And so I would simply say, take a deep breath, you got this, and accept the challenge, because it's here and we can make the difference. And it's not going to be easy, and we're going to have to step up for each other, and we're going to have to, you know, but take a deep breath first, you know, and that's it. Yeah? Thank you.
Well, I think they've covered it all. I would only add strategic. I think since Latinas resuelven, you know. So, you know, yeah, so like when we learned that from a young age, right? Because, you know, like we said, there's certain roles that I heard there's certain roles that get played. So the guys got to do certain things, pero tú tenías que resolver todo. A ver, todo esto. You can do this and this and this, and then you can go out and play. So there's so much innate things that we have, characteristics that pass through our heritage that are a part of who we are, that we believe we need more support or much more education to get things done. Innately, we creatively resolve. So for me, strategically, we're poised in a place, whether it's your own business, whether how we organize our home, our kids, like whatever we do, we're doing it all day, all our lives. So when you step in front of those boardrooms, inside those corporate offices, the strategies that you have through all that, you've already been trained to what that is. So I would think the biggest change would be how we would strategically change operations, how we would strategically revisit how certain corporations and organizations run, and they would be leaner, certain different types of results, and that's what I believe would be the biggest thing that I would see different.
Help me thank this panel. So we're going to go to lunch, but first we are going to, take a picture as soon as I get up. Come on up. Grace, who is our wonderful supporter from Bank of America, is going to share some words. You'd love to be in.
Yes, you need that. You need that.
No, that's yours.
Oh. Of course.
Thank you so much.
Well, let's give this panel another round of applause. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Golly, when I started this, it's hard to believe it was maybe December, Ileana, that we were talking about what a great opportunity to bring Brave Voices leadership to Charlotte. Maybe the bank can participate. And here we are, April 23rd. And we said if we get 150 leaders to attend, whether from Charlotte or from across the country, that would be a good thing for us to have, right? And here we are. I think we have 220. So congratulations to all of you. So again, good afternoon. For those of you that don't know, I'm Grace Nystrom, the market executive at Bank of America for the Charlotte market for our corporate headquarters. And of course, a pleasure to be with all of you and look forward to being with you all the rest of the afternoon. And gosh, as I look around, I see so many familiar faces. I just saw Wendy right in front of me over here. So, but this is our headquarters city, and of course, so proud to be with all of you. I know I have a lot of my colleagues who are also with us, and you had a chance to meet with some of them earlier today. And hopefully throughout the rest of the afternoon, you'll get to meet some of my other colleagues. The bank does have strict rules. So for those of you that had perhaps, the issue at the security desk, it's just a corporate policy. So I cannot get into this building without my own badge access. So it is just a corporate, and even I've been with the bank for 30 years. So, it's just kind of a standard. But I do want to begin by thanking, of course, Brave Voices and leadership, the conference team, United Latinas, Ileana and Sandra, and I could go on and on, but I want to say thank you for convening such a powerful group of convening such a powerful and purposeful gathering of leaders. I know I see a lot, majority women, but I also see some men in here, and I love that. Of course, leaders, innovators, and of course, change agents from across the country, including, of course, those of you from right here in Charlotte. If you traveled from across the country to be with us today, raise your hand. That's you. This is the kind of space where important conversations happen. So welcome to all of you who have joined us from other parts of the country. We're thrilled to have you. It is a beautiful day today, so maybe you will decide to move to Charlotte. But this is a place where, bold ideas are shared, where fresh perspectives, meet, industries intersect, and the future begins to take shape. At Bank of America, we believe deeply in the power of dialogue, especially dialogue that brings together voices from different sectors, different experiences, and of course, different communities. Whether we're talking about AI, right, artificial intelligence, and we'll hear from someone later today, including one of our leaders, entrepreneurship, real estate, investment, or community impact, that is the common thread in leadership. Leadership that is thoughtful, leadership that is inclusive, and leadership that stays focused on the long-term sustainable growth. And I am proud to say Charlotte is an ideal place for us to host this conversation. I see you, Astrid. This city is more than Bank of America's corporate headquarters. It's our home. It's our town, and something that we are so proud of across not only Charlotte, our corporate headquarters, but across the 97 markets and 40 countries where we do business. It's where decisions are made that ripple across the country and around the globe. We serve millions of clients, support businesses of every size, and help drive economic growth nationally. But just as importantly, Charlotte grounds us. It keeps us connected to the real economy, real communities, and real opportunity. As a Charlotte market executive, I do have the privilege of seeing firsthand how this market continues to lead. For those of you that are perhaps new to Charlotte, Charlotte is one of the fastest growing markets in the country. We do have 157 people that move into Charlotte each and every single day. It's pretty impressive. A lot of them coming from the Northeast. Ileana, maybe you'll move to Charlotte one day, from Rhode Island. But it's a hub for financial services, technology, healthcare, real estate, and entrepreneurship. But what truly makes this city special is not just its growth, its intention behind that growth. Leaders from across all these sectors are asking an important question. How do we ensure that success is shared? At Bank of America, our commitment is clear. We are here to help make financial lives better and drive responsible growth. And for those of you in Charlotte that live in Charlotte have heard me say that multiple times at different types of programs, but it's the growth that benefits our clients, growth that supports all of our teammates, and growth that delivers value to our shareholders, and growth that strengthens the communities we serve. That commitment shows up in tangible ways. We support entrepreneurs and small businesses through access to capital, mentorship, and education, because we all know, thriving businesses create jobs, fuel innovation, and open the doors to upward mobility. We invest in affordable housing and neighborhood revitalization because we know strong, stable communities are the foundation of economic growth and economic strength. Earlier this morning, the reason I wasn't here with y'all this morning is Bank of America. We were at a media press conference this morning where Bank of America, in addition to the city and the county, as well as some other corporate donors, we donated $6 million to support affordable housing, stable housing in the city of Charlotte. We also partner with nonprofits, as many of you know, because I saw some nonprofits in here earlier, educational institutions, whether it's UNCC, the community college, you name it, we have those partnerships, and civic leaders, because no one organization can move the needle alone. Nationally, we're also investing in the future through responsible innovation, including the thoughtful application of AI, as mentioned earlier. AI does hold enormous potential to increase efficiency, improve client experiences, and unlock new insights, but it must be deployed with transparency, strong governance, and people at the center. And make note of this, technology should expand opportunity, not replace trust. I'll say it again. Technology should expand opportunity, not replace trust. That same mindset applies, of course, here in Charlotte. We're proud to employ thousands of teammates across the country. We have over 200,000 teammates. In Charlotte, we have 19,500 teammates who live here, volunteer here, raise their families here, and of course, lead here. Our people are deeply embedded in this community, serving on nonprofit boards, mentoring young leaders, contributing their time and talent far beyond the walls of our offices. What excites me most about gatherings like this conference is the cross-pollination of ideas. Entrepreneurs learning from investors, corporate leaders learning from community builders, national perspectives grounded in local realities. This is how real momentum is built, not in silos, but together. And as we look ahead, the opportunity for Charlotte and beyond across all of our markets is immense. Continued population growth, business expansion, and innovation will bring change. And with change comes responsibility. Responsibility to lead with purpose, to invest with intention, and to ensure that economic growth translates into the opportunity for more people. Bank of America, we're committed to being a long-term partner in that journey. We've been around, we've been around for more than a century, and we're planning the next one, supporting businesses, empowering individuals, and helping continue to compete, grow, and lead on a national and global stage. So my encouragement to all of you who are with us for the day, keep pushing boundaries, keep asking the tough questions, building partnerships that matter. The ideas exchanged here today have the power to shape industries, strengthen communities, and change futures. Thank you for what all you all are doing in your communities. Thank you for being part of today's conversation and conference. Thank you for your leadership, and most importantly, thank you for joining us today, and look forward to meeting you all throughout the day. Now I'm going to ask Margaret to come join me on stage.
Thank you so much, Grace. Quick announcement before we go to lunch. I'll keep you only 2 minutes and we are going to lunch, but please pay attention to these announcements. Everybody please pull your calendar on your phone. And on June 11th, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., we're going to have our second local event, United Latina event called the Influence Room, From Visibility to Influence. Everybody needs to be in that room. So please put it in your calendar because you know me. How many of you got a call from me or a text or an email? Yes. So you'll be hearing from me. Now, all your badges have a QR code on the bottom. That has the agenda of today. There is breakthrough sessions after lunch starting at 2 p.m. So check it out. At 4 p.m., we're back into this room. And we're going to have a celebration and big surprises for you. At 1:30 p.m., if everybody wants to be in our United Latina photo, we need to be all together outside, 1:30 p.m. We will be directing, after lunch, we will be directing everybody. And lastly, don't forget to visit the marketplace and the author corners. So thank you, everybody, and let's go have some fun at lunch and network.